What about the church in Europe, church in this project of the Pope? The church followed the Pope or not?
Well, it's interesting, actually, at the European level, there's a really, here Chiara can also comment, at the European level, there's what is called the European Laudato Si Alliance, or otherwise called ELSIA. It's a network of COMECE, the EU bishops network, the bishops conferences at the EU level in Brussels, with other EU-based institutions, one of them being CITSE, the network of Catholic social justice agencies, the Jesuits European Center, us, Laudato Si Movement, Justice and Peace Europe, etc. So there's that network coming up, and I think it's a very promising experiment at the church level in Europe of engaging EU institutions and also hopefully catalyzing action across the European church. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting experiment from the last, 2 years, Chiara, maybe? So yeah, actually, Chiara has more to say on that.
I think this, yeah. I could just add, I mean, as Thomas said, like there is this...
To speak, we don't need to.
Sorry.
In the contrary.
Yes, sorry. Yes, as Thomas said, there is the reality, is a piloting of different Catholic actors at different levels acting together. I would say that this is, for me, I mean, to link up to what you said, Thomas, I think the main innovation in that experience is really focusing on best practices, focusing on the experiences of many church actors around Europe that tried to live Laudato Si in their own way of working, in divesting from fossil fuel, their investments, in like trying to build parishes, buildings in a different way, in a more energy efficiency way. So I think this is the real innovation for me of ELSIA, is really trying to put at the center the best practices, evaluating those, see how that could be duplicating, and also looking at the different experience in different parts of Europe, where the challenges, yes, are global and are similar, but the context and the cultural and the social context is quite different. And maybe I just take the opportunity I'm speaking, I like what, I mean, the accents that Thomas put on the emergency and all what the science is telling us in terms of the climate emergency we are facing. But I'm wondering also, thinking about what Professor Damani said earlier about the syndemic.
So this is for the general discussion.
Sorry.
Because in the
I will
country,
come back later.
maybe don't have content. We have half an hour to discuss, general discussion. Please, there are other questions? Please.
If there's a question on the role of the church in the Laudato Si movement, which I think is crucial, and I mean, this is where the movement comes from. I would like to ask also about building bridges with the people outside the church. In a lot of EU countries, the secular or even atheists are a major part of population. For some, as it was mentioned earlier, ecology or a green movement is a kind of new religion or a new movement or a new spirit that they feel. And how the Laudato Si movement wants to communicate with them? Does it want to lead or build partnership? What is the collaboration that we're creating here? Because as you mentioned, the EU is not going to solve it on its own, but it also shouldn't engage in this kind of benevolent imperialism, right? So maybe these partnerships on different levels should exist. And I just want to know what's your take on this.
Anyway, Thomas, I want to say, was very important, the act of the other day here with the Pope and all the third was the President Samani also. And both present, only the scientist was the president of our academy. So it's a glory for the Pope Academy. And the synthesis of the speeches of the religious leader was religion need to be open to science and science need to be open to religion. And this is very important. And after the more important leaders, you also want to have an academy like the Academy of the Pope. Bartolomeo first came to say, I want to copy this academy, and also Welby, say the same. And I said, but you have the Royal Academy. Yes, but I don't belong to the, I say to the Queen to appoint you, because the Queen is the chief of the religion. So, and he said yes. But it's to say, but the curious thing is that in the new agreement of education that want to launch the Pope, don't say nothing about science. So please, Thomas, give me an answer about this.
I'm not sure I can answer that last one. But on the previous, yeah, I mean, indeed, I think that the event just a few days. So Monsignor Marcelo is referring to the event on October 4th, on Monday. There was this big event of faith leaders with scientists issuing a joint appeal to COP26. And indeed, that was, so that I think partially answers that question, that indeed the church is engaged with all faith groups, all religions are called to walk together. I mean, we have this common home, right? This is the beautiful language of Laudato Si, that the planet is our common home. We share it in common, and we have to work together to solve it. And clearly, Laudato Si is addressed to all people of goodwill. So we have no other choice, actually, than, yes, indeed, collaborating like way beyond the church. It's not enough for the church to change. We need the whole human family to change together. So to answer the question, then yes, absolutely, there's a lot of action taking place in terms of collaborating at the international level. For example, in the COPs with Chiara, for many years, we've been collaborating with other faith groups as well. Each in this big COPs, all the major faith groups are represented, and they usually are joint events and joint initiatives, but also at the local level and the local communities. We just finished, for example, the season of creation. The season of creation is it's more of a Christian in it. It's ecumenical, but so it's different Christian churches, and it runs between September 1st and October 4th. And we've seen throughout the years, and this last September was no exception, tremendous amount of collaboration between different Christian churches at the local level. So the local churches in a given town or a given neighborhood coming together and taking action. And last but not least, of course, it's way beyond, as you said, there's a lot of non-believers out there. So collaboration is needed also with many of them, or all of them actually. And here I think it's also important to humbly acknowledge that outside the church, the sensibility and the, let's say, awareness of the ecological issue they've been working on this for many, many, many decades, since the 60s or 70s. And humbly acknowledging that we've been kind of late. We Christians, and especially Christians, but many others as well, we've been kind of late. So they have an important role in collaborating with people of no faith is absolutely essential as well.
I have a question to you, Thomas, as I can. Is the COVID, the question of COVID. In what sense? What was the relation of COVID and climate change? It was a form of I don't know, to check the situation, and the reaction was positive, or was more in the sense, no, it's not, we need to continue to use oil and continue to use and to have the devastation of the trees and this kind of thing. What was the consequence of the COVID in relation to climate change?
That's a good question. I think it has distracted attention significantly, I would say. I think in public opinion, the sense of urgency, I mean, just thinking 2019, before the pandemic, you might remember there were this massive mobilizations in the streets by the youth movement. Just in September 2019, there were 13 million students marching in the streets of all across the world. And the sense of urgency was building up. With the pandemic, I think, unfortunately, the sense of urgency has been lost, to be very honest, and because people, of course, are trying to not get sick or heal from the illness. So I think, yeah, there has been we've lost some momentum, and of course, still people, even if many of us, the connection between ecological breakdown and environmental degradation and pandemics is like scientifically clear. Most people out there in the streets, like public opinion, I don't think there's an awareness of that connection yet. So yeah, unfortunately, I think it.
In some religion leaders, yes. So, Matteo, you
Yes.
want to say something?
Yeah,
Sorry.
just a very quick comment to what Tomas has just said. I think this is really essential for putting this together. COVID crisis, however, counterintuitive it might seem here, yeah, it is a relatively non-complex crisis compared to climate change. So if Europe, unlike many other countries or regions, cannot deal with such a simple, relatively simple, of course, crisis which is solvable, it will lose its role as a champion of fighting climate change. Also due to the, what's been discussed in many panels, like loss of cohesion, yeah, internal, the social unrest and so on and so forth. So that's why I think it's very important that representatives of climate movement, secular, Catholic, and people concerned with COVID, researchers and people running networks, grassroots movements, come together, because otherwise we lost this decisive years. We need to think in terms of years, not decades, not only as in excellent paper Professor Pozzo said, because it's all accelerating, but deterioration is accelerating. And it's not too much to say that we are living in decisive times for the future of our children and grandchildren. So just wanted to, so somehow connect the dots. It was a comment.
The general discussion.
Yeah.
Because we are in time of general.
Yeah.
Please.